button on Restream. All right. I'll mute myself over on Discord. All right. I think we are good to go. Welcome, everyone. Blake Baxter, please introduce yourself.
Hi everyone. My name is Blake Baxter, as Gary, of course, just said. My background is about near 20 years now in family office, venture capital, private equity. I do have a firm based in Singapore that's around family office. It's kind of like a family office hybrid private equity investment group. I've seen a lot over the years and all around emerging technologies. It's quite interesting. It's always been fun. I've always had a mindset and philosophy of being able to lower barriers of entry or things that can create impact around the world to lower barriers of entry, create abundance, right, and tap into the talented minds that are out there, right, and what can potentially come from that when they get better access to various, whether it's tools, technologies, etc. And I am the co-founder and co-CEO of Immersive Enterprise Laboratories, and that's where I put majority of my time into. And that's an independent animation studio where we took the traditional way of doing animation, which is a linear way of going about it. You have to do each step along the way, and you see everything at the very end. And then, if you want to make any changes, you essentially have to go back to one of the initial steps to make those changes happen. We created an iterative approach of that, so it kind of unlocks for the next 100 years, where it's enables transmedia. We create basically an IP ecosystem of all the assets, which is the characters, the just whatever elements that are part of the creation and production of it, and then we can reuse those across. If it's for the movie, we can reuse those assets for the TV show, for TikTok, for marketing, for merchandise, etc. It's kind of like merging live action and animation together. That's been a lot of fun. We're heavily supported by HP, NVIDIA, AMD, Intel, and Adobe. We will be at NAB at the end of this or mid-month from the 18th to the 22nd at the HP booth. So if you guys, anyone's there, feel free to stop by too. So yeah, is that good, Gary?
I think that was great. What a wonderful beginning to our Monday. It's a wild Monday. Um, yeah, so we're gonna take some questions from people. William, glad to see you here. Feel free to chime in. If you've got anything for Blake, we're happy to hear from you. Others that are tuning in from LinkedIn, Discord, Twitch, YouTube, we're looking forward to hearing your questions. Whatever you got, feel free to share what you're working on. If you're not sure what to ask, it's always fun to just, start with what you got going on, whether it's something already in progress, you're further along in it, you already have an investor, whatever it is, it's something that we can talk about and hopefully shed some light on and use you as an example to help others learn or help you learn something you don't know about. So don't be shy, post what you got. Let me make sure we got chat coming in. Awesome, cool. So while we wait for people to be brave, I just saw Mayank jumped in. Mayank, yes, if you want to come up on stage, you and William, you're able to because you're over on Start Motto with us. Just post in chat or raise your hand, and I'll bring you up. While we wait for people to be brave, Blake, let's talk about some fun stuff that comes up often because I'm in these communities way too much. People are often complaining that they're alone. Too alone. I'm all alone. I'm an entrepreneur. I don't have the capacity to not be alone. This even came up with a photographer. A bunch of photographers were talking about photography business. What should I know about the photography business that, others don't share? Oh, I'm alone all the time. You're going to be alone all the time. So I want your take on this, since you're very successful. You've done a lot of wonderful things as an investor, a founder, a CEO, COO, advisor, all kinds of stuff. What's your take on this, and what would you suggest to help people not be so alone?
Find community. I think an interesting point of that is I was, again, community, right? So I was at the climbing gym because I, I rock climb. And when I was there, someone's like, "Oh, like, what'd you do? How was your week? Whatever." I'm like, "Oh," and I'm like, I was at this essentially a networking event, right? I'm like, "Oh, I hate networking." I'm like, "Well, because people look at it as just networking, right?" There was something I was told. I think I was 20 years old when I heard this, right? But it was friend raise before you fundraise, and you shouldn't like have the mindset of like, "Oh, need to make friends with everyone, and that's how I'm going to get this out of it," right? No, like that, what that means is just have legitimate friendships and establish relationships, and that's where things come to fruition, right? It shouldn't be the reason why you're doing it, right? But by doing that, you have community, you have support, and everything like that. Gary, you and I, we've talked about even the community of growing up in big but small places at the same time, right? And the access that it has and it gives you, right? Because all it takes is someone to overhear you say something. They say like, "Oh, yeah, I know someone who does that. I know someone who can help and participate there," right? I think the loneliness happens, and in such a variety of ways, and it is, again, find your community, find places that you can connect with people. You can connect with people in online environments too, right? I'm a cyclist as well, right? The cycling community for such a long period of time was great because it was a shared. You're spending hours on bikes with various people, and you're able to create these relationships, right? And then you hang out afterwards, and that's where they all come from. The loneliness thing, I think, is very real out there. I think some of the most energetic and excited people, and might not you might not think that they are lonely, but I think loneliness does happen to us all too. So yeah.
Yeah, again, I appreciate you bringing up, yeah, find community. I mean, at the heart of it, it's a choice. You're making a choice, and you got to stop and slow down and really kind of assess what you're doing with your time and what you need your time for to be healthy, feel fulfilled, feel connected to others, and yeah, whatever you got to do. And other thing too, like like you said, going out on bike rides and stuff, it's so important to not set restrictions on who you can spend time with because it doesn't fulfill everything you need from someone. I know we talk about this a lot, but it needs to be reminded because I see this every day. People talking about this. It's like, well, they're not an entrepreneur. They're not a founder. I don't want to spend time with other people who aren't founders. Like, why not? Life is so much more than just working on your business or your career. Like, there's so many opportunities to grow and learn and find ways to be more innovative by going and riding a bicycle with someone, by playing,
Yep.
pool, by doing any number of other things that you find enjoyment in and passion for. And yeah, it might also lead to some really wonderful opportunities down the line too, because you've endeared yourself to these people and they want to see you succeed and they're excited to talk with you. And the fun thing about talking with you is that it's not 100% always about your business or your career. It's maybe like 2% of that, but you have all these other enriching experiences throughout your life to bond over that makes you a human being that a lot of people forget about. You're a human. Be a human. So yeah. We have someone sharing that they're working on an app that just launched yesterday. They already have some traction. Been developing it for 6 months. So congrats on that, Deep Fucks. I don't know if that was meant to be pronounced that way, but that's how your name is, FUX. Um, but yeah, please do share a little bit more about who it's for, why they use it, how you've gained that traction, and what the plan is next. And yeah, then we can have a real fun conversation about that. Uh, let's see here. Yeah, Greg Monarusa, how you doing, man? It's been a while. Hi, Craig. Great to see you too. Those guys are joining us over on LinkedIn.
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
Greg, former community manager of Hub 101 local community center over here where we're based. Fantastic at community, and he does say community is key. So yes, it's good to live by
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah,
He lives and breathes that mantra. So
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Definitely left an impression on all of us with your wonderful work, Greg. Um, okay, cool. So Grundly is an in-house AI platform that can take any idea and turn it into a live business. It checks the legal area, creates business plan, branding, website, CRM system, and agents all in one string. All elements are talking to each other. The brain is teaching itself for every input. So we launched in a beta yesterday where we take in 500 users. Next move is take it slow. All right, Blake, there's a lot that Grundly touches on, and I'm curious on your take. What are some areas that you would suggest Deep Fucks in Value over on Discord should really focus on in terms of like possible hurdles or traps they're setting for themselves with what they're doing, assuming they haven't already talked to key personnel, experts that is that they have.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think overall, like, it sounds like, that's the right move of having, small-ish, right? 500 still is a significant number, and that's probably deliberate of it, right? To have some sort of significance rather than it just being, one or two potentials, right? But by having it, essentially creating the use cases, right? One of the things been talking about around AI in general, right, is how much does this cost, right? And in the systems that are out there, I think things can start to be a little bit confusing, right, because of the token systems and everything like that. Where someone is worried because now they're hearing like, oh yeah, I did this one thing and suddenly it charged me $500, right? Or oh, I signed up for this and I had this amount of credits or tokens or whatever, and suddenly it like just ran out so quickly I couldn't do anything that I wanted to do, right? I think it's using benchmarking, getting understandings of like, look, where the ROI really comes into it. There's been a lot of studies around AI too right now where it's actually not making anything that, I shouldn't say that that's so blanketed, but bear with me on it. But where certain AIs that were supposed to be reducing, let's call it friction, or or enabling more freedom or free time, whatever that looks like, where it's actually making things much more challenging, much more distracting as well, right? And then with that as well is that I think out there it's just kind of like the unknown, right? So what it comes down to is like people need to know what the real ROI is. So if someone is like, "Hey, I want to create this," and this is actually really cool. I find it quite interesting because it does all these like checks that typically people do. I remember, many years ago where you'd be on a call with someone, and they're like, "Hey, this is my startup that I've been working 3 months on, blah blah blah," and they're like, "We're the only ones that do this, right?" And then you can like literally open your computer or open up your phone, like say it's a face-to-face meeting, you're sitting down with someone, right? And all of a sudden you're like, I just found 5 companies that do the same exact thing, right? And they're like, oh wow, right? But like this like literally removes that quickly as possible. I think a go-to-market strategy too, depending on how much the cost is just to gain traction after this point, right? Is giving kind of like the free bite, right? Whatever the freemium looks like, and then it's kind of like getting them being like, okay, like here's the simple stuff, right, that it can accomplish. Getting them trusting your platform into your platform, and then being like, all right, so here you go, because then it's like, and then you can do a comparison of like, here's legal area, that's quite expensive for a lot of people if they don't know how to navigate it, right? Business plan and stuff like that, or just whatever the pitfalls are. This is really cool though. It is cool. So
Appreciate that. Uh, yeah, Meh7709 on YouTube also has a follow up question for Deep Fucks in Value. Have you, essentially, they're asking if you've used your AI to check your own business model. And yeah, curious if you have done that and what the outcome was of that. Um, yeah. And then Matt also shared on their own. They seem to be working with a family office, and they're wondering if the big lawsuit just happened because they're having an insane amount of inbound family office money coming their way to the firm that they're with, and it feels like vultures circling. Um, Having some family office experience yourself, Blake, what would you suggest in terms of how you manage and vet I guess, money coming your way, people that want to be involved?
Yeah, I mean, I can't really speak to some lawsuit of someone's will get resolved. I haven't heard anything like that. Yeah, and yeah, I'm not sure how to go investigate that either. Um, but yeah, if there's a insane, inbound family office money that suddenly, um, yeah, just go through the typical cycle that you normally would, and make sure that whoever is there and is doing what they're doing. And I think that there's, in general, right, I've been gotten a lot of spam email too, right? It's like, oh, hey, we're doing this. I think, to the kind of the point in conversation around AI stuff, is that you're seeing this abundance of people leveraging it for essentially just email marketing, if you will, right? And you can often tell what those emails. There's different markers that you can tell in an email if it's been written with AI, and how generic or disingenuous the emails are, or if they're kind of real and legit. So I would just use your own optics as best as possible to then see if it's legit or not, right? And it's up to you if you want to chase it and chase them all, and whatever those filters might be. But I have seen, it has been quite interesting. Some of the emails I've gotten, even they'll like mention some of the partners that we have, and I'll literally talk to them, and they've never even heard of the person who emailed me. So it's been quite interesting. Just make sure that if you are using that for AI, or I mean, if you are using AI in that sense, just make sure that you have the system, however it's built, to use factual information, because it can really mess you up in your own credibility of your company if it's used in the wrong way. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good bit of advice to pay attention to. Defucks in Value followed up with they've run it 100 times for their own business and feels it's solid. The tricky part has been to make all the tabs talk to each other. If you, for example, change a color and branding logo, it has to talk to the website. If you change your price point, the sales agent needs to get that information, etc. Yeah, I mean that that makes sense when you have so many different moving parts and features and little, like, data points and buckets to fill up and interact with. It's also why it's really important for most to start simple. Like, I think I mentioned, like, photography earlier. My background's in photography, so I have my degree in. And when you're learning photography, you start with natural light. You start with just a window, essentially. Like, a simple window is like your one single source of light, and then you add, a modifier to bounce some light. And then when you're working with studio lighting, start with one light and then two lights, and you master that, and then you start adding more. So similar kind of methodology and approach is really important for learning anything and building pretty much anything. Start very foundational, very slow, and then add on to it. So be careful not to spend a lot of time building 100 different features that all talk to each other and do all these, everything you can ever imagine a piece of software doing for someone before you've actually, like, entered the market, tested it, and really nailed that core functionality. Um, Related to that, Blake, Fiskrox on YouTube says, I'm trying to build a business as a 14-year-old, currently a design agency. Have been running it for a couple of months with some traction all by myself. Congrats. But Blake, what advice, feedback, insights, warnings do you have for someone that is very young getting started, especially a design agency, which is usually linked to online tutorials and classes on how to be an entrepreneur? What are your thoughts and feelings on this?
Yeah, I mean, just just being essentially a young person getting into the professional world that's out there, right? Like, Gary, I feel you can almost speak to this, because I think you were, what, 14, 15 when you became a professional photographer initially, right? You were still in high school doing it, and I think that's a rarity. I think the one thing I would say to them is to ensure that you have mentors and advisors, right, that have the level experience in running a business of any type, right, so that they can essentially make sure that you're not falling into any pitfalls, right? Ensuring that things are you're paying your taxes, right? Depends on where you're based, right? But there's a lot of people in just Los Angeles, in the city of Los Angeles, where because of them being there, and there's a thing that you have to opt out of every year, and if you don't, people pay tens of thousands of dollars in taxes that they never needed to actually pay to the city. It's so small little like nuances and things like that, and just make sure that you're essentially protected in those senses, right? Having someone who is doing your taxes on time, and again, all these little things that you set up your company the right way, and then from there, it's you continuing to do amazing work, get the eyeballs on the work that you're doing, show it off, and get attention, and keep building and building. I think it's very encouraging to see someone taking the move forward, right? Because you're going to be learning a ton and a ton through this that will be very impactful for other things you do in your life as you get older. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And yeah, Dr. Paxmore over on Twitch is screaming contracts, contracts, contracts. Yes, yes. So yeah, definitely. You know, I mean, when you're a minor, you gotta be careful because yeah, there are legal limitations to your ability to enter into contracts and do business professionally. Um, there's also other governing laws depending on where you are, what territory you're in regards to child labor laws. So be aware of all that. But yeah, I mean, one of the reasons on our like the Discord I run, it's 18 over. We don't allow children on, and it's mostly because we don't have the capacity to moderate and actively protect children from being taken advantage of in any way. And yeah, you're a child, so be aware that a lot of adults are gonna look to try to take advantage of you, exploit you, steal money from you, get you to do dumb things, and that's just like the best case scenario of what could go bad. So make sure you're talking with your parents. You have uh, an understanding of how to protect yourself and be careful and all that. Absolutely. Yeah, I had stupid adults when I was young, like you mentioned, getting started as a photographer who were taking advantage of my labor. And when I first started shooting professionally, I was doing buyouts. Buyouts meant that they were outright buying all of my copyright to the work that I was producing, and it was transferring to them. So I no longer had any ownership over the photographs that I took. It was now their photographs, and they controlled all of it. I couldn't even legally take it and say, "Oh, this is my work," because they owned it. It was crazy. So every little bit is so important to be aware of and recognize that you don't know everything. You don't know a lot. You don't know nearly anything at this point. So do your best to lean on others, your parents, friends, get in contact with lawyers who, if you're talking about design, studio design work, contracts, copyright, understanding all those things is so important, and being aware of how to license your work so you don't lose control of it, but you're giving them enough control where they're going to have peace of mind in usage as they need to use it, not having full control and stealing it from you essentially. So it was all kind of different things, but yeah, that's
Yeah.
kind of the gist of
I
it.
would say the contracts is such a huge thing. Of course, thanks Dr. Praxmore for that. Um, the one thing is that kind of in the whole taking advantage of realm, right? Is that even if it seems like someone is your friend or they are your friend or whatever it is, um, that you should always have a contract that's engaged with it, right? And what that scope of work is for whatever you're doing, there should be a stopping point, right, of what they get for whatever payment that they're giving to you, right? It doesn't mean that they get, you say how many revisions, right? How many rounds of notes, and all these other different kind of parameters around it. Again, as you learn and learn and learn, you're going to get a lot more out of it, and then being able to adjust. But really coming down to, contracts is going to be key. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I actually like. I really. That's something that doesn't get said enough. Like a lot of people push back on contracts, especially when it's between parties that they already know, they feel like they can trust, whether it's family or friends, or just someone they've worked with for like 10 years already. But the whole point of the contract is to preserve the relationship by making sure that everyone understands roles, responsibilities, deliverables. Everyone's on the same page, and it goes like it's even better if you have some sort of resolutions in there for how you're going to handle conflict if conflict comes up from unforeseen events. It just helps everyone, again, protect the relationship, make sure they're all on the same page before they start engaging with each other, working with each other. So if something does go wrong, you're not left screaming at each other and fighting. You're like, wait, we already talked about this. We already went over it. We agreed. This is how we're handling it. We're just going to go by the contract. And then everything's nice and clean. As long as both parties are, mature, sensible adults in how they're engaging with each other. End of the day, yes, there's always the possibility that someone is going to behave like a child and be very, very just emotional and reactionary. But as
Yeah.
long as you have a contract, you can still use that as protection. And you can always, like, once someone calms down and they want to behave like an adult again, you can always go back to that and be like, look, hey, look, that was on you, right? We agreed to this. So at least there's a way to absolve yourself of that trouble when it comes up. So yeah, I really appreciate that. We got some more questions. Um, Dr. Paxmore added a follow up real quick. That will never stop, even when you're experienced and an adult. It's the nature of capitalism. You need to utilize the tools you have to mitigate that. Exactly. Like all of this stuff is just gaining that experience and learning how to avoid problems. So you're
Yeah.
de-risking, whatever you're trying to do. Okay, so Clipsy asked, I would ask Blake what he thinks of AI startups in general. Do you see any potential problems with AI in the future? To which Deep Flux in value added, which may contribute to how you respond to this. Clipsy, my point on that is a lot of rapping is getting valued to extreme, even pre-money. For a rapper AI company, Claude and Chat is the petrol. If you higher the price on petrol, the system fails and it will bleed away, which is actually really interesting. But I'll touch on that after you share your thoughts.
Yeah. I mean, uh, I think it used to be AI was a all-encompassing thing, and now it's just so interwoven to things. It's kind of like how, and it's an accelerated sense, right? It's like when someone would say like, "Oh, I work in tech," right? That was like very that was a specific term, right? Now it's like I make the joke. It's the most the most non-tech quote unquote companies are tech enabled at this point, right? Same thing with AI. It's happening again, accelerated rate. So um, in general with AI startups, yeah, I think the startup realm has to happen, right? We all know that the statistics out there is that, most, not just most, but an overwhelming majority of startups fail, right? And there are amazing ideas out there, but do they make the quote business sense, right, to be sustainable and make the impact that they do, right? And so future problems with AI, yeah, I mean, right now, it's people are talking about it on a regular basis, but it's also, I think that what happens in anything, and just trends in around the world is that a problem has to happen to be able to fix the problem. You can't foresee, you can't randomly have something come to fruition because there's no problem, right? And so if there's a problem with, say, right now it's GPUs and CPUs and memory, right? Those are huge, um, hugely needed in the entire framework of AI. And if there's an over demand for it, then where does it go, right? Then consumers are impacted and everything like that. Then it's also the energy and resources side, right? So then how do you create more efficient models for it all? Um, and then, but I do see what is happening is where there's been a lot of content that gets out there. If you're talking about just sort of like image and video generation kind of things, where it's not making an impact, sort of like in a monetization or a monetary reward effect. And so people are kind of like, yeah, I just did this experiment. Here you go. But it's not professional, right? So it really comes down to what are the professional tools, even if it's like the creator economy, because people kind of dismiss that of like, they're not professionals. No, I'm lumping every person who is making and monetizing whatever they are doing in their business out there using AI. I think that's where it needs to go, and it is going that way, and it'll just have that natural progression to there, right? It's like back in the day when you could create your own website and just hack away and like make this like really silly whatever thing, and like, hey, look what I just made at school today, kind of thing. Where that's what a lot of people are doing right now, and it's going to adjust, and it's going to um, um, yeah, I think that's where the impact is going to start to go with it. I do see like potential, like I don't think it's necessarily plateaus. I think it like things will shoot up technology wise, and then it'll come over like again, not flat, but just kind of like gradually rise, right, and then shoot up again, and then rise, and then kind of like have a more gradual rise as the various things are out there. So yeah,
Yeah,
hopefully that answers and helps. Yeah.
yeah. I got some other comments that might be interesting. So I went to a panel that Straddling Law put on last week, and there was one person who builds data centers, which was gross. I can get into that for a billion reasons. Then there was a person who has a law firm that's using AI to help manage a lot of like the busy work that lawyers do, and then there was a guy that uses AI to help, much like Craig Silverstein does, our other wonderful friend and mentor, to kind of run uh, multiple data inquiries and little research tasks um, for them to analyze potential acquisitions, merger strategies, and other sorts of VC, family office, private equity type of deals and engagements. And the bubble question came up, and the private equity VC guy, his take was kind of interesting because he was kind of saying a little bit of what Deep Fox and Value was saying in regards to how everyone, because of the ability to vibe code stuff and throw AI into everything, is spinning up all these different businesses like that. And you have all of these very bloated valuations and companies that upon due diligence or discover that, oh, you're just like another rapper. You don't have anything proprietary. You're not doing anything that we can actually protect, and you're also built on other companies' technologies. So what happens if they shut you down or if they price you out or do something else? But then the guy on the panel went a step further and was explaining how his opinion is that companies like OpenAI are likely to fail because they're racing the bottom to kind of like build up their valuation, get as many users as possible, and like subsidizing all the costs that the consumers and larger enterprises have to pay. But the other companies that are creating AI themselves but have multiple different revenue streams that don't rely on AI as the main driver are the ones that are likely going to succeed. Meta, Google, you know, other ones like that, Nvidia, because once ChatGPT needs to raise the prices to make good on paying their bills and everything, well, all the other ones can continue to keep their prices down and wait for OpenAI to just crumble and such. So I'm curious, like, what are your thoughts in like that regard in the larger picture of like AI bubbles and what's happening?
Yeah, no, I think that's really interesting to talk about too, right? Because it's definitely is like it kind of goes back to like what's the impact that they're actually making that's out there, right? And that subsidy is part of that too, right? Where it's like, how many times have you seen someone that's makes, whatever, so and so person doing this other random thing, right? And what all it is to make like a random meme to send into a friend group chat of like, one of your buddies doing something different, right? That's has really no tangible value or anything else like that, right? But where what is interesting, right, it are the companies because like I saw a post of like someone talking about someone making, I don't know, 100 apps in like 30 days or something like that from vibe coding or yada yada. And it's really interesting because it's, when someone does that, like those aren't businesses, right? Like unless someone is it all comes down to utilization, utility patents. That's why it's called utility patents, right? It's utilization of whatever that that thing is, right? And so if uh, what you built isn't being utilized to make money, essentially, because that's what a company needs to survive, right, and make impact, and keep the lights on and everything, like for the tools and everything to progress, then it's not going to, you know, it's not going to flourish, right? So it's the companies that already have a substantial business or a type of business that the AI just creates efficiencies with the tools to make it easier, and but you still need a professional quality to happen around it as well. That's that's I think the gap that a lot of things are experiencing right now. And I think also right now it's a lot of people, like you see this all the time. Like I've seen, in entertainment industry, someone's like, "Hey, I just made this technology, so every studio should use this," right? But the thing is that for a studio to then bring that new technology in that might do all these things much better, it doesn't actually have the dollar impact, right? Of them training up, onboarding, getting everyone accustomed to it, being one of the first ones to use it when not everyone is on the platform. It's in such a networked way, right? You could have the very best thing that's out there, but if it isn't able to then be reworked into the existing system or systems of your essentially your target clients, then it's going to be very tough quote sell to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Dr. Paxmore added, I think the most interesting thing about the AI situation is that so many are trying to leverage it but have no stake in AI. They're just user subscribers. They use the API, maybe. Like, yeah, again, just building on other people's technologies and throwing their thing. Um, yeah, let's actually go up to another question from Justin Karbowski. Should a founder network with angels and then VCs to get to get to know personally, see how to help them, etc., before looking to fundraise? If so, how to do that? I have a startup, but not sure when, if I'll fundraise. Thanks in advance for the answer, Blake. Thanks for hosting, Gary. Sure thing, Justin. Great to see you
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, I mean, again, it comes down to where you currently are, right? Like, if I would say if you want to make friends with angels and VCs, right, and be in that network, then go ahead and do that. It shouldn't just always be about the money, right? In the sense of it, they are looking for deal flow. They're looking for good companies and everything like that too, right? But being in the mix and being in the circles, and you start to hear really interesting stuff before a lot of others do as well, right? Um, and if it is between angels and then and VCs, right? Understand who the people that you're talking to are the audience of, right? When a lot of times people hear, my background investments and, my firm that does stuff in the world, that, they're like, oh, I have this, startup idea, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, that completely outside the realm of what we look for, right? And then also understanding, in the VC world, they typically have, um, their very strict orders, right, of where they're able to deploy the capital into, and just understand where it fits and how it doesn't fit. So then you can actually be more targeted in the relationships that you start to build. So I think that's, when it comes back to like, should I do X, should I do A or B? Do what actually fits into the world that you are, right? And then you can also do stuff in preemptive, like say, you're not going to need, a VC is only B rounds and beyond. Sure, have conversations with them. No, nothing harmful to that. But also know that, don't be talking to them when you have a pre-seed round, around them investing in you, kind of thing. So
Yeah, I mean that's usually like the advice like we give all the time is it's never too early to start networking and building relationships, especially authentic relationships with other people. Um, like you look at all the really crazy startup stories that get in TechCrunch and everything else. They get movies written about them, and those are extreme outliers. Those people typically came from immense privilege already. They already had deep relationships with other people through their parents, their grandparents, and in some cases, yeah, it's through their school because they went to an Ivy League and their professor, took a liking to this kid and wanted to go to bat and introduce them to people they know, right? For the most part, 99% of us have no existing relationships, no privilege like that, and you're not just gonna walk into like like an investors meeting or find an investor at like the local bar, cold pitch them and get $1 billion to go do whatever you want to do. It's about having an ongoing relationship with someone where you're endeared to them, they like you, they want to see you succeed, they want to be a part of that support system that they have for you because they enjoy being around you, they enjoy seeing you succeed, right? And in some cases it goes further, of course, because now it's like a working relationship. They know what it's like to be around you, but also they've been in like in situations where they've seen how you function, how you work with others, and they feel a little bit of safety in doing that with you. They know that if they were to give you money, you're not gonna be a total obnoxious shit that's just like not listening to anything that's going on, just heads down, just driving on pure gut instinct into a wall over and over, right? So there's all these little things that are, those soft skills that are demonstrated through ongoing time around each other. But then again, yeah, like these people that are further, like, are more focused on later stage things, you can always ask them questions and ask them for advice and feedback and such. And yeah, it might be hyper specific to your project, but business is business, right? So you can ask about core methodologies of how they handle certain things, how they, did what they did, how they learned, what experiences they've had that were very troublesome and hard on them, and how they overcame that and got past that. Which leads to another great question from Fiskrux over on YouTube. Can I ask Blake, how did he get into becoming a founder and CEO? And how was his beginnings? Great question.
yeah, yeah. To preface this, I always kind of say that, never just like, everyone's story is going to be different, right? And always like look at the ones that kind of like work for, what it, where it's currently at. But yeah, no, my my it's a very long-winded story, so I'll give like the cliff notes or spark notes depending on generation, but just a bridge version of it. No, so when I got out of college, I went into real estate. My grandfather was a real estate developer, and he had passed away, but I kind of wanted to, just experience that kind of realm, and so I thought being a real estate agent was the first way to go, just explore and experience. That was kind of very entrepreneurial in spirit, right? Because you're kind of like managing your own business, because it's how you do things, right? And I guess to just, from there, I had met some highly influential people, and then I noticed, a transition was going to be occurring, and I was going through transition in my life where it's like, okay, what do I actually want to do? Why I took stock in why was I so interested in the real estate side of things. It was really around understanding markets, understanding impact, and which kind of turned it just into uh, general business and entrepreneurship, right? And in that realm, when I had a highly impactful people in my lives, one took me under their wing and became my mentor. And so that's when I started doing advising in family office space and met quite amazing people from around the world. That set me off on a journey. On the entrepreneurial side, one of my first companies, did a bunch of things that would just like went nowhere completely, right? A fun one that I had done was when I was traveling overseas I was in Korea specifically. I saw that there were wines that were sitting there that were extremely, extremely expensive that I could get at Ralph's, the local store for, you know, 10, $15, and they were being sold for like 100 over there. I said, oh, what is this? So basically created a wine, spirits, and beer distribution company, bringing containers from all around the world into various parts of Asia. So that was a lot of fun, seeing a need, seeing a better way to do, to do something, and the monetary rewards that were coming from that. Learned a lot there, and then I would always do advisory work too, around in the space of, when I was, the various investment groups or in things that I'd done there. And then, so while advising, there was a lot of entrepreneurship that was happening. And sometimes I'd jump into a company in a leadership role, that was beyond just advisory. Sometimes I'd keep it as advisory, whatever. And then my current company, I'd met my co-founder and co-CEO. We actually went to middle school and high school together, and he was explaining to me how he thought that the media and entertainment space and animation could be done completely differently. The more and more he explained it to me, the more interested I was, and we decided to push forward and to create the company that we ended up doing, which is all around impact. I think authenticity is really important with it, where having an authentic mindset and a way to go about the impact that you create, and the financial reward is the secondary, right? But it's also what you need to have your company thrive at the same time. So yeah.
Appreciate that. All right, we got three questions left. Do you have time? I know I was late, so are you okay to go a little bit over?
Unfortunately, I cannot. I have a
Okay.
call immediately after
All right.
this.
All
So,
right. Let's get real quick though. All right.
yeah.
So last two questions. What is your stance on investing in companies that match your investment thesis, but might be competitive with one of your portfolio companies, or not direct competition but adjacent?
I have a very unique stance on that, which is not the industry. I actually feel that a lot of VCs, that's one of the, not call it issues out there in general. I think VCs are amazing and stuff like that. But oftentimes they are putting money into various, let's call them horses, right? That that they're wanting to hedge their bets, if you will, by putting them into 5, 10, 20 different companies that are all semi competitors to each other, or have some overlap, because they want one of those to be the one that 100x's from their initial investment, right? So there's a lot of like strategy and tactics around that. I think that, I, not to necessarily comment on what is right or what is wrong, right? But I do understand when VCs go about it that way. And also, what can happen too is that they can combine companies. There is that opportunity to combine companies to actually make them a lot more substantial too. So I would always say, like, always keep your mind open to wherever the possibilities are with the VCs that you have. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. We've seen that a lot. Even again, I'm not fans of them, but the Elon Musk, Peter Thiel early story of what became PayPal, to
Yeah.
you know competing companies that saw more strength in combining and merging. Reddit Genius asks, how do advisors affect a founder's ability to raise? Should advisors have equity? There are services that offer advisors from monthly fees instead of equity. Is that worth a founder's time? And then 11 a.m. Had a follow up question related to that. If an advisor on the deck is supposed to showcase an expert's confidence in your product, why would an investor who is paid to be there instill the same confidence? So, in regards to um, these monthly fees for an advisor instead of equity. So, yeah, what are your thoughts, feelings, answers on that?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on what you're willing and wanting to give, give as the reward for being advisor, right? Is an advisor just on paper? Or are they extremely active, right? If you are giving them equity, if you're giving them fees, make sure it goes back to even what Dr. Praxmore was saying before, contracts, having it outlined exactly what their expectations are, how many hours a week, right? The beats of calls, just whatever that scope is of what they're expecting to do, right? For that compensation. So whether one is right or one is wrong, right? If you're cash poor, equity is what you have, right? If you're cash heavy and not a ton of equity, then you move over to the cash side, right? So not every scenario is going to be the same or the right answer to it. It just really comes down to where where it makes the most sense for you. Yeah.
All right. I don't want to press your time too much.
Yeah.
People are asking about your link. Everyone, Blake's LinkedIn information's on the event pages. I will post them in chat in just a moment. And yeah, Blake, I appreciate you being patient with the slow start
No.
this afternoon very much. And everyone else, I apologize for yeah, time with Blake being cut a little bit short, but it's very generous of you as always to play a part in this. And yeah, thank you so much, man. Any
No.
final thoughts you want to leave with anyone, or you want to leave us with
Yeah.
announcements, anything?
Yeah, no, I mean, very thankful for everyone participating. Really, really like these types of questions. Never know where it's going to go from the get go. Always impressive people. So it's been really, really quite wonderful. Yeah, Blake Baxter on LinkedIn. I have this like weird picture of me like with a microphone, um, speaking at my alma mater. So yeah, just hit me up there. And I would say overall, it's yeah, I think there's a lot to be said around just like about being a founder, impact of AI, what is happening in general, right? And I think what it is that have value proposition, make sure that it is something that is not a flash in the pan. It's something that is going to be have substantial movement, and not just the initial impact that it has, but like how can you make longevity of it. Pivoting is key too. There's always going to be something that happens where, wait, I never even knew and thought that this was going to be what it is over here. And going back to it, friend raise before you fundraise, right? Get out there, make relationships, be part of community. To Gary's point with loneliness in the very beginning, right? Connect with people, be connected. People want that, right? I was at an event on Saturday. It was interesting. I just randomly asked this random guy a question, right? Because actually I had no idea how I got the invite there, but who I thought invited me, they said no, it wasn't them. It was I asked a few people, but it was really interesting, and it was around AI. So I asked this guy, and he's like, "Oh, this is how." And then we ended up hanging out the rest of the night, and all of a sudden created a group of 5, 6 of us, and it was like hugging each other by the end of the night, and we had never met each other before that too. Amazing conversations around it, but that's the kind of thing. Just put yourself out there. And he literally turned to me. He's like, "Thank you, like for actually talking to me." He's like, "You just broke the ice, and it's kind of just what was needed." And I genuinely just had wanted to find out how people were invited to this event because it was supposed to be like so exclusive or whatever kind of thing. So anyway, that being said,
I love it. I love it. Yeah.
thanks for this time. Good
Okay.
seeing you, Gary.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Thank you as always. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing you next time. Yeah,
Next month.
yeah, yeah. Everyone check the calendars. Be in touch. Don't be shy about reaching out. And thanks for being really bold and brave, asking questions, everyone. All right. Have a great rest of the week. See
Cool.
ya. Yeah, take care, man.